The city looked perfect. Lights filled every street, people laughed in cafes, and for a moment, it felt like the war had never happened. But something about this place felt wrong. Almost too perfect. The more I watched the people around me, the stranger it became. Everyone smiled. Everyone followed the same routines. It was as if nobody had a single worry left in the world. Giant screens stood above the city square. Messages about hope, unity, and rebuilding played over and over again. The crowd watched without question. I couldn't stop wondering what they weren't being told. Then I noticed the guards. They weren't protecting the city from danger outside. They were watching the people inside, and suddenly I felt like I was being watched too. I needed answers. If this city had survived the war, there had to be records somewhere. So I spent the next day searching through old archives and forgotten shelves. That's when I found something impossible. Entire sections of history had been removed. Pages were missing. Dates were erased. Someone had rewritten the past. That night, an old man approached me in a narrow alley. He looked nervous, constantly checking behind him. Before I could speak, he whispered, "You need to know the truth." According to him, the city leaders had been hiding secrets for years. Secrets about the war. Secrets about what really happened after the bombs fell. Before leaving, he handed me an old map. It was worn and damaged, covered in handwritten notes. Whatever it led to, he was risking his life just by giving it to me. After midnight, I followed the map through the empty streets. Every shadow felt dangerous. Every footstep echoed through the silence, and I knew there was no turning back now. The map led me to an abandoned subway station beneath the city. Most people probably didn't even know it existed. The deeper I went underground, the colder the air became. It felt like I was walking into a secret buried for years. At the end of the tunnel, I found something incredible. A massive underground facility stretched beneath the entire city. It wasn't abandoned. Someone had been maintaining it all this time. Giant screens filled the walls. Maps, reports, surveillance footage, information from all over the world. This wasn't just a bunker. It was a command center. Then I saw the files about the war. The story I had been told my entire life wasn't true. Entire events had been hidden from the public. The truth was far worse. Old video recordings played across the screens. They showed the first days after the attacks. Panic, evacuations, entire cities disappearing overnight. Some footage was so shocking I could barely keep watching. But then I noticed something strange. Several cities were still standing, fully functional. The world hadn't collapsed as completely as everyone believed. Suddenly, I heard footsteps echoing through the hallway. Someone else was down here, someone who definitely didn't want me seeing these files. Red lights flashed across the facility. Alarms began screaming through the corridors. Somehow, they knew I was here. I ran as fast as I could through the underground tunnels. Every turn looked the same. Every second felt like my last. The entire facility seemed determined to trap me. Just before sunrise, I escaped beyond the city walls. Exhausted and confused, I looked back at the skyline. Whatever secrets that city was hiding, they were bigger than I imagined. The files contained coordinates. I didn't know what I would find there, but I knew I had to follow them. It was the only lead I had left. Hours later, I arrived at an abandoned airport. Hundreds of planes sat frozen in place, like time itself had stopped on the day the world ended. Among the ruins, I found fresh tire tracks. Someone had been here recently. Someone with resources. Someone organized. The tracks led into a dense forest covered in fog. As I walked deeper, my radio began picking up strange signals. Hidden among the trees stood an old military research station. It looked abandoned from the outside, but something told me it wasn't empty. Inside, I found stacks of classified documents scattered across desks. Most were damaged, but a few were still readable. What I read changed everything. Some of these plans had existed years before the war even started. It raised a terrifying question. Was this disaster really an accident? Before I could read more, a loud noise echoed from outside. Someone had arrived. Through a broken window, I spotted vehicles moving through the forest. They weren't scavengers. They looked professional, military. I stayed hidden and followed them from a distance. Whatever they were protecting had to be important. The convoy eventually stopped at a massive hidden complex deep in the wilderness. High fences, armed guards, advanced technology. This place wasn't supposed to exist. From a nearby hill, I watched scientists and soldiers moving through the facility. They worked together as if the world outside had never fallen apart. Slowly, I realized the truth. While millions struggled to survive, secret groups had spent years rebuilding civilization in hidden locations. Inside one building, I found a giant map covering an entire wall. It showed dozens of hidden cities scattered across the continent. I stared at the map in disbelief. Everything I believed about the war, about survival, about humanity, had been a lie. And if these cities existed, what else was still out there?